Hello and welcome to Medical Dialogues, your daily dose of health and medical news. I am Dr. Nandita Mohan and here is what we have for you all from the world of medicine. The deterioration of mental health in transgenders and their increase in suicidal thoughts as well as attempts. Suicide is the second leading cause of death in adolescents and young adults aged 15 to 24 years. Sexual minority youth, those attracted to the same gender or multiple genders or who identify themselves as lesbians, gay, bisexual or even queers are also at an increased risk of mental health issues. They also can lead to suicidal thoughts or ideations and even suicidal attempts. According to a new research published in the Canadian Medical Association Journal, transgender and non-binary teens are at higher risk of suicidal thoughts and attempts than their cisgender peers. The transition from adolescence to adulthood is a very stressful time for all the young people, but particularly for gender and sexual minority teens. These findings showing dramatic increases in suicidal risks should sound a clarion call that additional support is definitely needed. As the risk of thoughts of suicide and attempts is not well studied in the transgender community as well as the non-binary youth, researchers analyzed data from 6,800 adolescents aged 15 to 17 years, 99.4% of whom were cisgender, meaning they identify as the gender they were assigned at birth, and 0.6% were transgenders, meaning they identify as a gender that is different from that they were assigned at birth. The majority, accounting for about 78.6% of the respondents, were heterosexual, 14.7% were attracted to multiple genders, 4.3% were unsure of their attraction, 1.6% were girls attracted to girls, and 0.8% were boys attracted to boys. Overall, 14% of the teens experienced suicidal ideation within the previous year, and 6.8% had previously even attempted suicide. Transgender youth were 5 times more likely to think about suicide and 7.6 times more likely to have ever attempted suicide than their cisgender youth counterparts. The researchers hence concluded that suicide prevention programs specifically targeted to transgender community, non-binary and sexual minority adolescents as well as gender-affirming care for such adolescents may help reduce the burden of suicidability among this particular group. Managing neuroblastoma in individuals. Approximately half of the children with neuroblastoma, that is a childhood cancer that develops from the immature nerve cells, have a form that indicates a high likelihood of recurrence. New findings that are published online in the Cancer Journal showed that a bridge therapy, that is between the induction and consolidation treatments, may benefit patients with this high-risk neuroblastoma condition. To examine the benefits of this bridge therapy strategy for patients with high-risk neuroblastoma whose cancer was still evident after their induction therapy, the researchers examined data from 201 patients who were diagnosed with this condition who had residual disease after completing the induction therapy. Patients were treated in 3 groups with different approaches. The 3 groups included no bridge therapy prior to the consolidation therapy, bridge therapy prior to consolidation therapy, and an additional post-induction therapy without the consolidation therapy. The investigators were interested in evaluating if the addition of that bridge therapy protocol prior to the consolidation with stem cell transplant improved the event-free survival, or the time after the treatment that cancer did not come back, that is recurrence did not happen, or rather get worse in patients with residual neuroblastoma at the end of the induction therapy. Among patients with stable cancer at the metastatic sites after the induction therapy, and those who received bridge therapy had significantly improved event-free survival compared with those who directly underwent the consolidation therapy. Patients treated with the post-induction therapy who did not receive any consolidation therapy, that was the group 3 people, they experienced inferior event-free survival than with patients in groups 1 or 2. However, those in the group 3 with no signs of metastasis following the post-induction therapy had significantly better 3-year event-free survival than those with residual metastatic disease. Hence, it was concluded that the bridge therapy may definitely benefit children suffering from high-risk neuroblastoma. How asthma can affect pregnant ladies. Asthma is a chronic condition that affects 25 million people. Having a mother with asthma is an important risk factor, and a new study definitely explains why. A team of researchers have found striking epigenetic differences in the airway cells of patients with asthma who have had asthmatic mothers compared to the patients whose mothers never had asthma in their entire period. The research was published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, wherein the study, the team found different DNA methylation patterns in epithelial cells of the lower airways of asthmatic adults who had asthmatic mothers compared to those whose mothers did not have asthma at all. Epigenetics, it is a term which often refers to changes in how the genes are expressed in the body that are not directed by changes or mutations in the DNA sequence itself. Now, many environmental factors are known to impact the DNA methylation patterns, including even the in utero environment. The results hence suggested that an underlying cause is due to impaired immune responses, potentially explaining the lack of therapeutic response to corticosteroids, as well as suggesting alternative pathways to target as therapies for this group of patients. How menthol cigarettes being the leading cause of nicotine addiction. Researchers have noted that the proportion of 12 to 17-year-old cigarette smokers who smoke menthol has risen to 56%, and that these menthol cigarettes appear to have led them to smoke even more frequently and become more dependent on nicotine. The cooling sensation of menthol masks the harshness of tobacco, which can make cigarettes more palatable to the youth. Additionally, this cooling sensation can allow smoke to be inhaled even deeper, held in the lungs for a longer duration, which can even result in a greater absorption of nicotine per puff. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, cigarette smoking still remains the leading cause of preventable disease, disability, and death, while tobacco use is associated with 1 in 5 deaths. More than 90% of the current smokers start smoking as teenagers, and it is estimated that 80% of youths who use tobacco began with flavored tobacco products. The researchers therefore concluded that the addition of menthol to cigarettes is increasing the smoking frequency and as well as the nicotine dependency among the youth. Menthol cigarettes are also making it harder for them to progress towards quitting. Hence, these results provide strong support for the FDA proposed ban on menthol flavoring in cigarettes to protect our youth, which are the future. That's all for today. Stay tuned to Medical Dialogues for latest updates.
Never miss a medical update from Medical Dialogues. Like, subscribe, and press the bell icon.